I am continuing in my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am continuing reading in a chronological order, according to event, not according to publication or volume, so I'm skipping around a bit as I move along. We continue now with the Gospels. Christ has gone down to Jerusalem for a second feast, likely the Feast of Tabernacles in my opinion, but they are once again seeking to kill him for Sabbath day controversies. He healed on the Sabbath, so we got to kill him. Because of this, he has returned back into Galilee, and he has now ordained his 12 apostles. He is now setting up his church. He's organizing it. But our last reading was in Luke chapter 6, reading the Sermon on the Mount. This is a condensed version in Luke. And I just read the King James Version in the last video, so now we are going to look at the Joseph Smith translation. Now, as is usual, much of this is just grammatical updates, grammatical alteration, corrections. So, let us take a look. Starting in verse 17, where it says, "A great multitude of people out of all Judea and Jerusalem and from the seacoast of Tyre and Sidon, which came to hear him." We have this correction. A great multitude of people out of all Judea and Jerusalem and from the sea coasts of Tyre and Sidon who came to hear him. Minor grammatical. And the reason the coasts is pluralized is because Tyre and Sidon are two different cities. They have two different coastlines. Yes, they're both on the eastern coast of the Mediterranean, but they are two different locations and therefore would have two different coastlines. It would be like today saying the coast of Virginia and the coast of Maine. They're both on the eastern seaboard of the United States, but they're still different regions. So we pluralize it. In verse 18, change that to who, and they that were vexed, change to and they who were vexed. In verse 20, this is a little interesting. Again, minor, but interesting. In the King James, "Blessed be ye poor, for yours is the kingdom." A little correction here. "Blessed are the poor, for theirs is the kingdom." So he's not talking specifically to the people there. He's saying anyone, the poor, anywhere. We're blessing them all. And again in verse 21, the King James says, "Blessed are ye that hunger now, for ye shall be filled. Blessed are ye that weep now, for ye shall laugh." Minor corrections here. "Blessed are they who hunger now, for they shall be filled. Blessed are they who weep now, for they shall laugh." Again, just changing it's no longer in second person, it's now in third person. Verse 22, I believe this does the same thing here. At the beginning, "Blessed are ye when men shall hate you, and when they shall separate you from their company." Joseph Smith corrects it, "Blessed are you when men shall hate you, and when they shall separate you from among them." Minor again. Verse 23, "Your reward is great in heaven," corrected to "your reward shall be great in heaven." Makes a little more sense as a future tense rather than a present tense. Verse 25, we change that to who. "Woe unto you that are full" is corrected, "Woe unto you who are full." And "woe unto you that laugh now" is "woe unto you who laugh now." Now verse 26 is interesting though here, because in the King James we have, "Woe unto you when all men shall speak well of you, for so did their fathers to the false prophets." Makes sense, Blessed are those who are rejected by the world, but woe unto those who are accepted by the world, as I said in my last video. But Joseph Smith corrects it this way. "Woe unto you when all men shall speak evil of you, for so did their fathers to the false prophets." That's an interesting change, an interesting correction. But I will point out that in the previous verse here, verse 22, where it's talking about "Blessed are ye who are rejected of men," it says, "And cast out your name as evil." So it's "Blessed are you who are being called evil by the world," the people who are not just rejecting you, but are labeling you as evil. But down here, it is "Woe to those who speak evil of you," because now it's almost like saying woe to those. They're still in a sense speaking well, they're still praising them, but they're praising them for their evil. At least that's the way I get that. It's a very odd change. Verse 27, we have, "But I say unto you which hear, love your enemies, do good to them which hate you." Joseph Smith corrects this. "But I say unto you who hear my words, love your enemies, do good to them who hate you." I like the clarification of "hear my words." Verse 28, "Bless them that curse you, and pray for them which despitefully use you." But the Joseph Smith translation renders this, Bless them who curse you, and pray for them who despitefully use you and persecute you. Now that makes it the same quote that we read in Matthew. It unifies the two, and we will see that when we read Matthew, and I'm reading this one first, but we'll see that when we read Matthew. Now verses 29 through 33 all have significant changes. So we're going to come back to that. Let us look at these minor changes from 34 to verse 49 again, all of them very minor. 34, instead of what thank ye have ye, it is corrected to what reward have ye. In 35, near the end there, in the King James, for he is kind unto the unthankful and to the evil. Joseph Smith renders this, for he is kind unto the unthankful and the evil. Just takes out the word to. In verse 40, the first word says, the disciple is not above his master, but we change that to a disciple is not above his master. And on that point, what that means is, and it says later that they can become like their master. And to say you can't be greater than the one who taught you, but you can be equal to them. You can reach the same point that they have. That's another hint, another indication, another glimpse at man's potential. If God is our master, then we can become like him. But let us continue with the Joseph Smith translation. In verse 41 says, and why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but perceivest not the beam that is in thine eye? Those two thats are just changed to which. The mote which is in thy brother's eye, and the beam which is in thine own eye. In verse 42, the beginning there, it changes the word that to which later on, and at the beginning here we have, instead of either, how canst thou say to thy brother, brother, Joseph Smith simplifies it a little bit. Again, how canst thou say to thy brother, let me pull out the mote? So we take out the second brother, and then later on, behold is not the beam that is in thine eye, corrected to which, and at the end, the mote that is in thy brother's eye is corrected to the mote which is in thy brother's eye. In verse 48, just at the beginning, we change which to who. So he is like a man which built an house is corrected. He is like a man who built an house. And in 49, we change that to who. He that heareth and doeth not is corrected to he who heareth and doeth not. All very simple, very minor corrections. But now, let us go back to verse 29. We're going to read 29, 30, and then 32 and 33. It says here, in the King James, and unto him that smiteth thee on the one cheek offer also the other, and him that taketh away thy cloak forbid not to take thy coat also. Give to every man that asketh of thee, and of him that taketh away thy goods ask them not again. For if ye love them which love you, what thank have ye? For sinners also love those that love them. And if ye do good to them which do good unto you, what thank have ye? For sinners also do even the same. But the Joseph Smith translation gives us this, and unto him who smiteth thee on the cheek offer also the other. Or in other words, it is better to offer the other than to revile again. And him who taketh away thy cloak forbid not to take thy coat also. For it is better that thou suffer thine enemy to take these things than to contend with him. Verily I say unto you, your heavenly Father, who seeth in secret, shall bring that wicked one into judgment. Therefore give to every man who asketh of thee, and of him who taketh away thy goods ask them not again. And then 32, for if you love them only who love you, what reward have you? For sinners also do even the same. First of all, note that verse 33 is completely removed, where it says, if you do good to them which do good to you, that's just taken out. It's kind of redundant. We don't need it. So that's taken out. But note the reasons or the interpretations, you might say, of his words here. If he smites you on the cheek, offer him the other also. Why? Because it is better for you if you don't get into the fight, if you don't let yourself get egged on. That's what he's talking about here, I think, more than anything, is that don't let yourself get egged into a fight, into a confrontation. It is better for you to be humble, endure the spite and the attacks of others, than to get into a fight yourself. Let God be the judge and leave it in his hands. So I'm going to leave that here. Not a lot of real changes. As I said, that verses 29, 30, 32, and 33. There were some pretty good changes there. The rest of it was generally minor. Now we're going to be turning to Matthew and read the Sermon on the Mount there, which is, I believe, chapters 5, 6, and 7. So we're going to be there for a number of videos. So I will see you there.